Hi, everyone. Welcome to Making Your Interactive Dashboards Pop.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I'm a product manager at Tableau Software. My favorite flavor of ice cream is chocolate chip cookie dough, and the average number of days I eat ice cream in a week is definitely 8.
Hi, I'm Shay Koenig. I'm a senior product manager at Tableau, and my favorite flavor of ice cream is mint chocolate. Unfortunately, I'm lactose intolerant. So today, we'll be talking about online features to make your dashboards feel even more dynamic. We'll be showing you how we've added the following interactivity to our dashboards, including dismissible menus, interactive actions, navigation and export buttons, animations, and more. And to show you how interactive dashboards can be, this presentation is entirely in Tableau. No PowerPoint here. Though we won't go into detail on how we built everything, don't worry. You'll have access to this workbook after the talk. Each slide also has hints at the top right with a question mark icon that show you how it was made. So by this point, you may have noticed how much we both love ice cream. In fact, we love it so much that we've decided to start a Seattle-based ice cream shop. So for today, we are ice cream entrepreneurs presenting an interactive dashboard to you, our potential investors. You can see from this overview slide that we've done quite a bit of research on the ice cream market. We've also added lots of interactive elements. So let's take a look at those. We've created a navigation menu so you can browse the presentation in any order. There are also text navigation buttons at the bottom. They allow you to browse through the presentation in a linear sequence. So let's switch over to edit mode and take a look at how this was built. First off, this divider at the top is an image object. It helps give some structure to the page. There are navigation buttons in the middle that use custom SVG images. But if you don't have a custom image handy, you can also use ASCII, Unicode, and text characters to quickly accomplish your goal. In this little informational tip at the bottom, I've used the Unicode info character, so I don't have to rely on an image. This can also make your dashboard load faster. And the buttons at the bottom don't use a special image either. They're actually just text icons. Now let's keep going through the pitch deck so you can hear more about Neveria Seattle.
While Shay and I are quite the ice cream enthusiasts, we needed to do a bit more research on the frozen dessert market. At first glance of this viz, we found that the consumption of frozen desserts in a few cities are going up. Clicking on this info tip, we see that these cities include Seattle and New York City. Despite COVID-19, it seems that frozen dessert consumption is on the rise, likely due to dessert delivery services. I know that my fridge is fully stocked at all times. Another thing we see is this hover indicator that tells us that we should hover over the viz for some additional insights. Here I'm hovering over 2019 for the city New York City, and it looks like not only is frozen dessert consumption on the rise, but as I move to 2020, ice cream is becoming more popular as well. For the same time period of Seattle, it looks like ice cream is also increasing in popularity out of all the frozen dessert types. This type of breakdown is helpful for us because it narrows down what we should do as a first try at our ice cream store. Now let's take a look at how you might implement something like this for your own use cases. Here, I'm going to go to edit mode. One interesting piece that we talked about is using a collapsible container to add and highlight an insight. This can really help your users understand what they should take away from the viz and can really help tell the story that you're trying to tell with your data. This is achieved with this simple show hide container. All I did was drag out a horizontal or vertical floating container. And then in our case, I just added some text to it. And then I'll add the show hide button. This is very similar to how you've created your other buttons where you can edit and customize your button however you'd like. Another great tip is to add an indication for interactivity. Here we've added a hover icon to tell our user that they should hover over this line chart. A great way to do this is using collapsible containers and then add a tooltip to explain what the expected behavior or instruction should be. Using familiar and clear iconography can really help. It creates a sense of familiarity with your user. Be sure to add a tooltip like we have here, which tells us to hover over the line chart to see the breakdown by product type. Another thing we've added is Viz's in Tooltip, which is very simple to add. Looking at the sheet, all I go to is Tooltip, and I can see and customize whatever I'd like. Here we've added a few fields as well as an additional viz. Now let's take a look at the frozen dessert market.
So in our research, we discovered that Seattle doesn't just love frozen desserts, it's actually the fastest growing market year over year. Let's click on this legend icon first. Okay, so that shows me the color legend for the graph at the bottom of the dashboard. Now let's hover over the cursor icon to see what else I can do with this viz. Okay, so it tells me I should hover on the viz. Let's see what happens. When I hover over the viz, it automatically filters the other ones, product type and dessert type, on this dashboard. They animate too, so it's easy to see what changed. We can see that in 2018, sorbet was the top frozen dessert in Seattle. But in 2020, we can see that ice cream jumps to the top of the list. Now let's take a look at how we built this slide. So the cursor icon is the same show hide hint button that we showed on the previous dashboard. The tip to making this is that there actually is just an invisible container, but you add the tooltip so that when someone hovers over the icon, they can see what they're supposed to do with the viz. This is really great for people who are new to Tableau because they might not be familiar with all of the interactivity that's available. So when they hover over this, it gives them an idea of what to expect on the dashboard. The icon below that, the legend icon, is also a show hide container. But instead of having no content in it and being invisible, it shows and hides the color legend at the bottom. This helps me save real estate on a dashboard while also making sure my viewers, in this case my potential investors, can understand the viz. Then there's the filtering that happens when I hover on the viz. This is called a filter action. It's a great way to make your dashboard more dynamic in an analytically useful way. They're powerful and super easy to set up. To add one, just go to Worksheet in the menu, then click Actions. You can see that I've defined a hover action here. The source sheet is our year-over-year growth sheet. It's the one that's going to be driving the action on the other sheets. The target sheets are the ones on the dashboard. They're the ones that are going to be receiving the filtering. The action runs on hover, but I could also set it up to work when I select an item in the viz or to show the action available in a tooltip menu. Closing out of this, let's take a look at those animations again. So the animations on this dashboard look super slick and sophisticated, but they're also easy to set up. I just need to go to Format, Animations to open the Animations pane. So here I've used the default animation duration and style. The default animation duration is 0.3 seconds, but I can slow them down a little bit if I want. So let's switch it to 1 second. Now let's take another look at those animations. If you want to demonstrate something a little bit more clearly, you can slow down the animation speed to clearly show to your audience exactly what's happening. And animations are easy to turn on and off. They work automatically. You don't have to define the relationship or say that you want a certain series of steps to be animated in a particular order. Basically, whenever something meaningful about your underlying data changes, animations will happen automatically if you've turned them on, like with the filter action that we have here.
We looked at Seattle and New York City, but wanted to look into how the rest of the regions compare. How does ice cream consumption look across the East and West Coasts? While both coasts look like their consumption is increasing in the past year, it's clear that West Coast consumption seems to be overall much higher. This is good to know, as we'd like to expand one day. There's an indicator here, and it tells us to hover over the line chart to see more details. So let's take a look. Here I can see that not only is ice cream the most popular type of frozen dessert across the West Coast, but also so is vegan ice cream. As I hover between the years, it looks like ice cream, and specifically vegan ice cream, is maintaining its popularity. This is very interesting and something we should definitely look into further.
So before opening up our shop, we definitely need to understand what the competition looks like. The great news is there's a really good market opportunity for us here. As you can see from the map, only 4 of Seattle's top ice cream shops even offer vegan options. You can see here that I've used custom ice cream icons to add a little bit extra flair to my dashboard. So now let's click on the info tooltip to see what else it can tell us. So here we've put a viz inside a show hide container. We've overlapped it with part of the dashboard, which creates a feeling of a collapsible menu with more information, where I can zoom in on more details about the dashboard. It's worth noting when I put a viz or an image or something else in a show hide container, it actually uses a feature called delay loading automatically, which means that the content inside the show hide container will only load when you open it up. This can help improve the loading times for your dashboards. There's still interactivity with the rest of the dashboard too. So down here, it tells me that I can click on the map to filter this flavor list and see what a particular shop offers. So let's click on shop number 4 in the map to filter the list. Now, let's hover over those flavors to see how many of them are actually vegan. As I hover through the list, I discover an interesting insight. It looks like even at the top ice cream shops, a majority of the flavors are non-vegan. This means we have even more of a great opportunity because vegan ice cream consumption is increasing in Seattle and across the West Coast, yet most of these ice cream shops aren't doing anything to meet that demand. Let's close this show hide container and take another look at the rest of the dashboard. You can also see here that we analyze the flavor profiles and the individual flavors of shops to understand what kind of variety they're offering. Our hypothesis was that having too much variety would cause decision overload for customers and result in a shop being lower rated. But as you can see, on average, there aren't too many differences between the top and bottom shops. That's great news for us. Now let's say we want to share all of this competitive information with our investors in a different format. Up here at the top right, I have a download button that allows me to save this dashboard in a PDF format in just a click. It's another kind of interactivity I can offer my users.
The next thing we looked at was location. We know that location can be important, but Seattle has so many neighborhoods. Looking at this top viz, we see that the top 15 ice cream shops are spread out across 9 distinct neighborhoods. It looks like Ballard has the most, but honestly not by that much. This tells us that we should definitely consider a place like Ballard or White Center, but in the future there's definitely room for expansion. We wanted to explore how location impacts the store hours. We found that it's quite rare overall to find a store that opens up early in the morning. Folks clearly don't know what they're missing out on, as I've been eating ice cream for breakfast for many years now. We also can see that the closing hours are quite late. Though Seattle's night scene varies from neighborhood to neighborhood, it seems that many of these stores are finding value and staying open late. Here I can see an indicator, and it gives me a hint to click for additional insights. I'm going to click on Ballard. Here we see that the opening hours of the stores in Ballard are mostly around noon, but close pretty close to midnight. When I look at White Center, this is similar for opening hours, but the closing hours are a bit earlier. Now, let's take a look at how we built this. You've already seen these indicators before. One thing to remember is to have consistent icons for the same behavior, so hints like these become familiar and expected. Every time someone needs to select a mark on the viz, we're using the same icon. Another part of this viz is filter actions, which you've seen previously. I've created a filter action here so that when I click on the neighborhood, it filters down to the opening and closing hour busy. This is all great information for us to consider as a part of our ice cream shop.
So now that we've presented all of our research, let's review our business strategy by hovering on each of these different menu options. We already know that Neveria will be plant-based, planet-friendly, and carbon neutral. As we saw, there's a lack of vegan ice cream shops in Seattle, and even the ones that offer vegan flavors don't offer too many. This gives us a great market opportunity. We also want to be open late. We saw that many of the top shops are open late, but we can differentiate ourselves even more here. Neveria will be open until the early morning to satisfy those late night ice cream cravings. We'll be centrally located in White Center, which is one of Seattle's hottest new food scenes. And we've gone ahead and outlined other aspects of our strategy here, which our investors can view afterwards. So how did we build this slide? We used a couple of unusual tricks. Let's switch over to edit mode to see how. Okay, so those hover buttons are actually a viz. I created an Excel file with a list of menu items. Another one has a list of descriptions that are displayed in the center. Using a filter action, the viz with the menu item names filters the viz with the descriptions. You might also have noticed that the ice cream image here in the middle is animated. I accomplished this by embedding a web object that references an animated GIF on the website Giphy. If we go over to the web object, you can see that the URL is actually pointing directly to the URL of the image, and that's how it gets embedded. Prevent people from accidentally clicking on the GIF website and to create the layered text effect, I have the viz that shows the descriptions floating over the GIF. I've given it a translucent background, which creates a faded overlay effect on top of the GIF. Subtle tricks like these don't just look impressive, they can be used to great effect to make your dashboards feel more dynamic. It also can make it feel a little bit more like an application that's running in Tableau. Oh, and it's also here to make you hungry. Is anyone else craving ice cream yet? That wraps up our demo on making your dashboards more interactive. Today, you saw how to add dismissible menus, interactive actions, navigation and export buttons, animations, and more to your dashboards. And if some of it flew by, no worries. You'll be able to download the workbook and see how we built it ourselves. And don't forget, each of the dashboards has one of these handy tips at the top right. Just click the question mark icon, and it will open an overlay pointing out some of the things that we put on each dashboard.